For the resting hand orthosis, when we are doing the tracing, we are going to start off tracing 2/3 of the forearm. And really important, you want to make a line at the thumb MP right here and the radial styloid. And then you want to add about 1/2 inch to 1 inch of room in between the fingers to add for the hand trough. Now, really important, make a dot between the first and second finger, as I'm doing here. This is going to make for the thumb part of the splint. So now I'm going to connect the, from that dot I made, I'm going to go straight down to where I made the lines for the MP, as I'm connecting there, as you can tell. And I'm going straight down to the radial styloid line. And I'm kind of making a curve like that until the thumb MP line on the other side. So this is the part I'm going to cut out that's going to fit the thumb. So the next part of the video, actually, sorry, so this is a kind of a picture of the dots and lines that I made. So between the web space and fingers 1 and 2, the line across the MP, and line across the radial styloid. And you can see how I connected the lines from this picture. So then I'm going to cut it out, as you can tell here. When you're cutting it out, make sure the curve reaches until the thumb MP line. As you can see right there, I stop. So that's the amount of space you need. And then we are going to trace this on the material. So here we are tracing, and make sure you add extra space because you want to cut inside the lines so there's no marks on the actual splint. So here I'm tracing around, and I should have added more space on the sides because the splint has to wrap around about halfway the circumference of the forearm. So I made the tracing there. Then you want to submerge the material in hot water so it is easier to cut. And when you're cutting, as you can see here, I'm cutting inside the lines. So whenever you actually make the orthosis, the lines don't show. It's more of an aesthetic reason. So always make sure you add enough space so you can cut inside the lines. So again, long snips, you want to avoid rugged edges as I'm doing here, and rounding out the corners, of course. So as you can tell here, I'm trying to make it very smooth. And then you want to be very gentle here as you make the thumb opening area, making that curve. And then again, looking for any sharp edges, I'm cutting away, as you can tell here. And then we are ready to submerge in the hot water again before placing it onto the piece. Now, once you submerge it in hot water, you want to make sure the patient is in the correct position. So depending on the diagnosis, you want the wrist to be about 30 degrees of extension. And for the thumb, if it's involved, you want it to be in slight palmar abduction and opposition. So make sure the patient is in the proper position and is not moving around. Pad dry the material, make sure it's not too hot before placing it on. So placing it on here, letting gravity do its thing and conform onto the body parts. The thumb part, as you can see here, I'm wrapping it around. And then on the web space part, I'm stretching it out a little bit just to add more space inside the web space. So again, letting gravity do its thing and trying to keep the splint in the position I want it to be in. As I wait for it to, become rigid again. I'm softly pressing down on the palms to get the transverse and longitudinal arches here. And it's very important that you don't apply too much pressure because we don't want there to be any pressure points. You want gravity to do its main thing. So overall, it looks pretty good. But one thing I should have improved is adding more space between the ulnar and radial side, because since it was kind of short there, it's not as rigid, it kind of slides more. So make sure the splint wraps around halfway to 2/3 around the circumferential forearm. And yeah. Here I'm just checking on areas where I can make adjustments. The, the fingers, as you can see, there's extra space. So I'm going to make note of that, and I'm going to make a line here, which you could also use your fingernail to kind of slide across, but I used a marker actually to see how far away I'm going to, how much material I'm going to remove. Um, so I'm going to make that adjustment there. And then I'm going to check for the thumb, and I'm going to remove some extra from the thumb as well, because there's some extra space as well. So I'm going to dump it in, cut it off, and then I'm going to smooth out the edges. So here I'm smoothing it out already, since I already removed it. And just make sure there's no sharp edges anywhere of the splint, because we don't want it to be uncomfortable. Once you're done smoothing it out, you're going to add the straps. There's going to be two proximal 2-inch straps, and there's going to be two distal 1-inch straps, as you can tell there. And there's going to be one strap that's going to go around the thumb if it's affected. So as you can see here, I'm adding the thumb strap. So this is going to be a 1-inch strap, about a 1-inch strap that goes around the thumb to secure the thumb. As you can see, I'm cutting away the Velcro, making about a 1-inch strap, measuring here the space, and rounding out the corners of the Velcro so it doesn't come off easily. Always make sure to make those rounds. So securing the thumb there, securing the proximal straps, it's going to go around the forearms, and then the distal straps, which is going to go around the fingers. And this is the completed splint.